Location can often be a barrier for many of our clients, particularly in rural communities. We're going to be learning more about how our rural partnerships are helping us meet clients where they are. So AJ, we partner as CVIC with a variety of law enforcement officers, not only in the urban Grand Forks proper, but in Thompson, Larimore, Emerado, and Northwood. Can you just start off by giving us an overview of those partnerships?
Yeah, I'm the Director of Community Response at CVIC, so I oversee our coordinated community response team. Our team is focused on the response, the system response to domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking. So we track crime data through town, we track the offenders that are going through the court system, as well as coordinate our domestic violence court project, and then also coordinate our lethality assessment program for law enforcement and our Grand Forks County sexual assault response team. Big piece of my role is I get to work really closely with law enforcement in Grand Forks County. So lots of collaboration meetings with law enforcement as other system response professionals as well. And then we also sit down and look at our data and kind of identify what's happening, what the trends are happening, and how we need to address those trends and how we can work to address those. So, yeah.
I am the chief of police in Northwood. It's a one-man department. I am everything. I'm your investigator, your patrolman. I am the financial guy. I do everything. But working along with CVIC, I'm the first one to walk in the door when something's going on, but they are my first phone call to get other resources coming out to me, and it's the advocates come out and they're going to be helping out the victims while I'm doing my investigations. So
we talk a lot in our work about dynamics and how domestic violence and sexual assault dynamics are somewhat unique to survivors who are trying to leave an abusive relationship. Can you talk about how that might look different in a rural setting, AJ, with just how dynamics might present differently and maybe some examples?
Yeah, it definitely can increase the severity of a abusive relationship. Those people are isolated, so those victims, those survivors are away from services if they are in rural areas, and sometimes they don't know where to go for services, so it can definitely increase the severity of that relationship, the lethality of that relationship. So being away from Grand Forks, where there's a lot of services available, sometimes it can be difficult, especially even to get out of that relationship. You know, we see people who are tracking like the gas mileage or not putting enough gas in the car to reach organizations, reach Grand Forks. We were seeing a lot less reports because less people out there. One thing that I like to highlight is in town here, when we're looking at the data in town, the type of relationship between people on incident reports are typically not living together. You know, boyfriend, girlfriend, they don't live in the same household, but in our rural locations, the majority of people are living together. So that does present a unique challenge too for those people in those relationships. We have to recognize that different towns, different communities, the data does change.
Well, and when you think too, also, I mean, just to kind of touch off that, with the small towns and everything, everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows everybody's business. You can't hide anything, and unfortunately, even in a small town, people will judge immediately. And you know, you go out to the store to get something, and you have people eyeing you, looking at you, and that's just, you know, the victims need help to be able to deal with that and get away from that too. So. Yeah.
And you are one person show in Northwood, which is about a 45-minute drive from Grand Forks. What challenges do you face being the only law enforcement, kind of the only show in town?
It's definitely it's a big difference in larger agencies and everything. I'm obviously, like I said, one-man show. You know, the backup's not there. You don't have all these different entities that are necessarily right there available to you. They will be available eventually, but it takes time to get them out there, and sometimes time is just something that we don't have the luxury of using at that point in time. So.
And how does CVIC come in then to help kind of overcome some of those gaps?
CVIC, they make it so much easier for me as a law enforcement officer to do my job, because when I'm in there and I'm doing my part of the police work and doing the investigations and everything, I know that I have advocates that are going to come out there and they're going to be helping the victims immediately. They're going to be putting them a little more at ease. They're going to be getting them services they're going to be needing, and that just makes it easier for me to work with them as a victim and help to figure out exactly what's going on and prosecute cases and get the charges pressed forward.
Well, we just so appreciate you being that first line of defense for us, because oftentimes that's how victims get to our doorstep, unfortunately, is you were their first introduction. A lot of times it's after hours, late at night.
Yep.
And our advocates are very accustomed to that, but we just appreciate you helping us kind of bridge that gap for victims.
Oh, it's a great relationship between CVIC and law enforcement. There's no doubt about it. We couldn't do what we do without having you guys there to back us up the way you guys do. So yeah, it's wonderful having you guys here.
You know, for both of you, what opportunities are there? And if you look at, what you could envision for the future, what would your hopes be for either the partnership or ending violence?
You got two entities that are working together the way that they are and can collaborate the information the way we do. There's really no end to what we can accomplish at the end of this. As far as goals and trying to end violence, I mean, in a perfect world, we wouldn't have jobs. Any of us wouldn't. But unfortunately, it's not a perfect world. So as far as goals are concerned, it's just being able to streamline it maybe a little bit more. And continue to build the relationship that we have with CVIC and everything and stuff. So.
Yeah, I don't think I can say anything more than that. We have a strong relationship right now, which is, the end goal is helping those victims, and that's continuing to yearly present the data, look at the data and say, hey, what can we do better,
It's a big problem, but we're so glad you're both here, and thank you again.
Yep, thank you.